He didn't just wear the armband, he made the team breathe through it. Before you saw the number on his back, you saw the way he moved, like someone who already understood how things end. Roger Byrne didn't lead with volume, he led with stillness. He didn't sprint to catch the eye, he took the space no one else knew was missing. He didn't dive for applause, he covered ground so others could shine. He played like a mirror, reflecting the strength his teammates hadn't yet found. And in a side full of brilliance, he was the one who held the center. He built without needing credit, led without needing to shout. He wasn't the storm, he was the shape the storm couldn't break. But when the end came, it came without warning. A cold runway, a torn sky, and the silence that follows when time stops too early. No last match, no closing applause, just a child not yet born, and a name whispered between those who knew what he gave them. He never asked to be remembered. He just made sure everything worked while he was still here. Subscribe if you believe some leaders don't leave legends, they leave order and the space for greatness to happen, because Roger Byrne was never waiting to be noticed. He was already where he needed to be. Roger William Byrne was born on 8th September 1929 in the tough back streets of Gorton, Manchester, where men didn't talk much, but their football spoke for them. He wasn't born into the game, he climbed toward it. He played for Ryder Bro Boys Club, where the boots were scuffed, the pitches were cracked, and the only thing that mattered was how hard you worked when no one was watching. And someone was watching. Joe Armstrong, Manchester United's chief scout, saw something most missed, a brain that read movement like music, a balance that didn't flinch under pressure. Roger joined United as an amateur in 1949. No press, no promises, just a quiet arrival into a club that was building something bold. But before he could rise, national service pulled him away, the Royal Air Force. They lined up the athletes, chose who could play football. Byrne wasn't picked, they didn't see a footballer. So he played rugby instead. And he played it like he meant it. He learned how to take a hit, how to keep going, how to hold shape when the whole field tried to break you. By the time he came back to Manchester United, he wasn't angry, he wasn't loud, he was just ready. And when they gave him his chance, he didn't blink. He returned from national service in the early 1950s, still quiet, still unreadable, but now shaped by something harder than matches. Manchester United gave him his first team debut on 24 November 1951 against Liverpool at Anfield, a 0-0 draw that few remember. But the man who stepped onto the pitch that day was already becoming the one no one could replace. At first, he played out wide, outside left, wing half, even filled in at forward. He never complained. But he wasn't at ease. He felt like a stranger in positions that didn't fit his rhythm. In the 1952-53 season, the frustration built. He even asked for a transfer. He didn't want headlines, he just wanted to feel in sync with the game again. And then, quietly, everything changed. They moved him to left back. Not because he asked, because someone finally saw where he belonged. He had no interest in charging down wingers. He studied them. He had no urge to fly forward just for the crowd. He timed it, each overlap was surgical, each recovery was rehearsed in his head before it happened. This wasn't flair, it was intelligence. Long before modern fullbacks existed, Roger Byrne was already playing like one. He didn't need to learn the position. He understood it. And from that moment on, he never looked lost again. By the start of the 1955-56 season, Matt Busby handed him the armband. No press announcement, no ceremony, just a quiet decision that the calmest man on the pitch should be the one they followed. Roger Byrne became the captain of a side so young they were nicknamed the Busby Babes. He didn't lead them like a general. He led them like an older brother, the one who made space for everyone else to rise. That season, he guided United to the First Division title, winning it again the next year in 1956-57. 2 back-to-back league titles, with a team where most of the stars were barely out of their teens. And when the world asked how a group that raw played like champions, the answer was simple. They had someone who knew when to hold, when to push, and when to say nothing at all. He wasn't the most vocal. He wasn't the most famous. But ask anyone who wore red in that dressing room, he was the one they looked to when the moment got heavy. He played beside names like Duncan Edwards, Tommy Taylor, Eddie Coleman, David Pegg, Mark Jones, and Liam Whelan. Young, brilliant, and burning bright. And yet, Byrne was always the spine. He didn't just steady the defense, he held the culture. In a team built on fearlessness, he was the one who made it sustainable. And when United stepped into Europe for the first time in the 1956-57 European Cup, he led them all the way to the semi-finals, the first English team to do it. No big speeches, no ego, just presence, poise, and a standard no one dared fall below. He made his debut for England on 3rd April 1954 against Scotland at Hampden Park. There was no warm-up period, no adjustment phase. From the moment he stepped onto the pitch, he became undroppable. 33 consecutive caps, every match from debut to the final year of his life. Never left out, never rotated, never replaced. They called him consistent. They called him clever, but mostly they called him the one who made others settle. He played in the 1954 FIFA World Cup in Switzerland, still early in his international career, but already trusted in the starting infields. In a defense that changed around him, Roger Byrne stayed constant. He wasn't loud, he wasn't brutal, but he read the pitch like few ever did. And as the great Billy Wright began to near the end of his reign as captain, there was only one man the press and the players whispered about as his successor. Byrne never got the chance to take the armband, but the path was laid. England saw in him what Manchester already knew. He didn't just steady a defense, he gave a nation something it could rely on. They were returning from Belgrade, a 3-3 draw against Red Star, through to the semi-finals of the European Cup. The dream was alive. The plane stopped to refuel at Munich Riem Airport. Snow fell. Slush built on the runway. 2 takeoff attempts failed. The third didn't make it. At 3:04 p.m. on February 6, 1958, the aircraft crashed during takeoff. A wing clipped a house, the tail tore, fire followed, 23 people died. 8 of them Manchester United players. Roger Byrne was one of them. He was just 28 years old. No time to say goodbye, no chance to fight for life. Some say his body bore no visible wounds, eyes open. Still. Goalkeeper Harry Gregg, who survived, later said, "Roger didn't have a mark on him, but he was gone." There was something cruel in how quiet it was. The man who kept so many others composed was taken before panic could even form. And at home in Manchester, his wife, Joy, was pregnant with their first child. He never knew. His body was brought home quietly. No parade, no broadcast, just grief that didn't know where to go. The service was held at Flixton Parish Church. The man who had held so much together was now the reason everything felt like it was falling apart. After the prayers, he was cremated, ashes scattered without ceremony, without the headlines his legacy deserved. There was no testimonial, no final match, no farewell at Old Trafford. The season had to continue, and football, as it always does, moved on. But not everyone could. His wife, Joy, carried more than heartbreak. She carried their son, Roger Jr., born 8 months later, never having heard his father's voice. No photos of them together, no bedtime stories, just a name. The club carried on, Matt Busby survived, the team rebuilt. But something in the air had changed. The calm had left. The spine had snapped, and the one who never needed credit was now the one whose absence was felt in every touch of the ball. His name never made it into the official halls. No formal induction, no spotlighted plaque. There was no statue, no chant passed down, no shirts raised in tribute under the floodlights. Others became myths. He became a memory, preserved only in quiet corners and those who refused to let the silence win. There is a street now, Roger Byrne Close, tucked away in Newton Heath. A small road, among others, named after the ones who didn't come home. And in 2024, fans raised money for a plaque at the Manchester Crematorium, just to make sure his name wouldn't fade into the stone without a voice. No headline honor, no family closure the game could ever provide. His son, Roger Jr., born into shadow, once walked the pitch at Old Trafford as a ball boy. He held the air where a father should have been, and looked into the crowd for a legacy that was never fully built. Because some players become legends by the goals they score, others by the noise they make, but some become immortal because of what held together when everything else was trying to fall apart. And when the world forgets them, it's not history failing, it's us. You won't find his face on the museum walls. You won't see the clips replayed. There are no sound bites, no quotes that made the back pages. Because Roger Byrne didn't lead with moments. He led with meaning. He wasn't the most gifted, wasn't the most celebrated. But when United's greatest era began, he was the one wearing the armband. When chaos threatened rhythm, he brought stillness. When youth burned too bright, he steadied the flame. He was never built for fame, but he was made for legacy. And now, piece by piece, it returns. In the stories told by those who knew. In the tributes written not in banners, but in the way we remember who mattered when it all began. Because without Roger Byrne, there is no Busby Babes, no back-to-back titles, no belief in calm over chaos. He was the example, the order, the standard. And though time moved on without him, we don't have to. So say the name again. Say it clearly. Say it like he deserved. Roger Byrne, captain, leader, foundation, forever. Subscribe. If you still believe in honoring the ones who built greatness and vanished before the world gave them their due,